This is Planning Your I Do from You Had Me at I Do. For over a quarter century, You Had Me at I Do has been helping couples say, I do. We bring more than 400 weddings of real-world experience as an officiant and a DJ, and this podcast is packed with what you, as the bride and groom, need to know, what you're wondering about, and what's keeping you up at night. No judgment, no fluff, just real answers and ideas for real planning. Here's today's episode.
Welcome to today's deep dive. We are just so incredibly glad you're here with us today.
Yeah, really glad to be doing this one.
Because whether you are, newly engaged and feeling that really intense initial wave of pressure.
That pressure is so real.
It really is. Or maybe you're in the trenches playing maid of honor for your best friend, or honestly, maybe you're just endlessly fascinated by the psychology of event planning and human behavior.
Right. The psychology behind it all is just fascinating.
It is. And whatever your situation is, you are in the exact right place. We are unpacking a massive, often overwhelming topic today.
Massive is probably an understatement.
Totally. And to start, we really need to think about a universal rule of going to the grocery store.
Oh, I know exactly where you're going with this.
You never, ever go grocery shopping when you are starving.
Right. You just don't do it. You walk through the sliding doors with an empty stomach, and suddenly your rational brain just shuts off entirely.
Completely shuts down.
I mean, you went in for a carton of milk and a dozen eggs. That was the whole plan.
Just the basics.
Exactly. But because you're operating from this place of immediate, overwhelming lack, suddenly that artisan cheese looks like an absolute necessity.
Oh, yeah. The family-sized bag of potato chips just magically jumps into your cart.
Right. And the next thing you know, you find yourself intensely contemplating, like, eating a hot rotisserie chicken right in the driver's seat of your car.
Which we've all been there, let's be honest.
Oh, absolutely.
But it's because you're surrounded by beautiful, endless options. And without a strict, pre-written list anchoring you to reality, you just end up buying a massive amount of things you absolutely don't need.
You spend way more money than you actually have.
Exactly. And you leave the store feeling completely depleted and, honestly, a bit sick.
Yeah, that grocery store hangover is real.
So today, we are taking that exact concept, walking into a sensory overload without a solid plan, and we're applying it to one of the most expensive, emotionally charged life events a human being can possibly orchestrate.
We are cutting through the absolute noise of the modern wedding industry.
Yes, we are. And the goal here, just to be clear, isn't to give you another checklist of things to buy.
No, please. There are thousands of those lists already out there on the internet. You don't need another one.
You really don't. The mission of this deep dive is to build a psychological toolkit.
Right. We are aiming to protect your peace, your time, and most importantly, the actual relationship at the center of this whole event.
Which gets lost so easily.
It does. We're trying to protect that from severe information overload because, the difference between a couple arriving at their ceremony calm and joyful versus arriving completely hollowed out and running on fumes, it rarely comes down to their budget.
Wow, really?
Yeah, honestly, it rarely comes down to family drama or the caterer's star rating either. It comes down to whether they allowed an infinite scroll of beautiful, curated images to become the absolute tyrant running their lives.
That is such a powerful way to put it. And we are drawing our insights today from a really fantastic source text called Planning Your I Do.
Such a great read.
It is. It features the very hard-earned wisdom of Chris Truitt. And I think we really need to establish right up front why his perspective is so incredibly valuable.
Right, because this isn't just, advice from a lifestyle influencer who planned one aesthetically pleasing wedding last year.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Chris brings 26 years of real-world, boots-on-the-ground experience to the table.
26 years? That is wild.
I know. He has worked more than 400 weddings. And not just from one perspective, but from two incredibly unique dual vantage points. He's been an officiant and a DJ.
Which is such a brilliant combination. Those two roles provide this highly accurate diagnostic lens on human behavior under pressure.
Tell me more about that, like why those two roles specifically.
Well, think about the officiant's viewpoint first. You are standing at the absolute emotional epicenter of the day.
Right, you're right there.
Exactly. You are looking right into the couple's eyes during the most intimate, high-stakes moment of the whole ceremony. And from 2 feet away, you can see all the micro expressions. You see the tension radiating off their shoulders, or, you see genuine, grounded peace.
You see the real them.
Right. You witness the exact emotional state they're bringing into the actual marriage.
That's so profound. And then what happens after?
Well, then the sun goes down, the formalities end, and he steps into the DJ booth.
Totally different vibe.
Completely different. Now he is controlling the energy of the entire room. He watches how the crowd reacts, how the couple interacts when the cameras aren't aggressively in their faces.
Oh, that's a good point. The cameras change everything.
They really do. And from the booth, he can see whether the reception actually feels like a warm celebration of a community or if it just feels like a rigid, stressful schedule of obligatory events.
Right, like, okay, now we must do the cake cutting. Now we must do the toast.
Exactly. Having that dual perspective 400 times over, that gives you a literal masterclass in what makes a wedding actually work versus what makes it collapse under its own weight.
So what is his overarching conclusion? After watching hundreds of couples navigate this absolute gauntlet.
Well, his conclusion is that the biggest threat to the event isn't a bad vendor, and it's not unpredictable weather either.
It's not rain.
Nope. The actual threat is the environment you are planning in.
Okay, let's unpack that.
Yeah, so before we can build a strategy for how to plan, we really have to deconstruct the curated fantasy that causes that initial wave of overwhelm.
Right.
We have to look directly at the illusion we are being sold online.
Which is everywhere. And the source text is careful to state that online inspiration, platforms where you save images, wedding blogs, social media grids, they are not inherently malicious.
No, of course not. Seeking inspiration is a deeply human impulse. We all do it.
We do. But the destruction of your planning piece happens in the way our brains process that inspiration.
Exactly. It happens when a mood board, which is supposed to be this abstract, fluid collection of feelings, suddenly hardens into a strict, unyielding purchase order.
Yes. A purchase order. That is exactly what it turns into.
Right. And the reason that transition from, a vibe to a checklist is so incredibly dangerous is because the images we are saving are overwhelmingly, completely fabricated.
This is the part that blew my mind.
Yeah. The source points out this really harsh reality that the industry often obscures. The vast majority of viral wedding images you see online, they are not documentary photos of real lived weddings.
They're not real couples.
No, they are styled shoots.
Okay, explain what a styled shoot actually is for someone who might not know.
Sure. So a styled shoot is a highly produced, heavily funded commercial endeavor. When you see that breathtaking, completely impossible image of a couple standing under a cascading floral arrangement on, a cliffside.
Like looking flawless.
Exactly. You are not looking at a nervous bride and groom who are worried about tripping over a hemline or sweating in their formal wear. You are looking at professional models.
Models who are entirely comfortable performing in front of a lens.
Right. And you're also looking at an environment that has been scrubbed of all real-world friction.
What do you mean by real-world friction?
Well, in these shoots, you have perfect manipulated lighting. You have vendors donating their absolute best, most expensive, top-tier products purely for a portfolio piece.
Ah, so it's not something a normal budget could ever touch.
Never. You might see a tightly cropped frame of a quote-unquote candid table setting that looks effortlessly romantic.
Yeah, with the perfect draping and the candles.
Right. But what you don't see is the floral designer who spent 4 uninterrupted hours on a stepladder using invisible wire and $50,000 of imported blooms just to achieve that single static look for the camera.
Wait, $50,000 just for a photo?
Yes. And then we have to factor in the sheer volume of AI-generated content flooding these platforms right now.
Oh, wow. AI's in this too.
Oh, heavily. The source mentions that some of the most viral, widely circulated images are entirely synthetic.
That is wild. So you could be sitting on your couch, right, feeling this deep sense of inadequacy because your local venue doesn't have an ethereal moss-covered archway spanning across a misty ancient forest.
Exactly. Meanwhile, that archway never even existed.
It was conjured by a text prompt.
Yes, it was literally typed into a computer. You are measuring your real physical life against a digitally generated fantasy.
That is so unfair to yourself.
It really is. And when you demand that a lived event, which, let's remember, is subject to gravity, wind, rain, budget constraints, and the unpredictable nature of 150 human guests.
Right. Real humans with real needs.
When you demand that event perform like a controlled, two-dimensional piece of commercial art, you are basically engineering your own misery.
Wow, you really are.
The psychology of comparison shifts in a devastating way. You aren't comparing your wedding to your cousin's wedding anymore. You are competing with literal code and commercial advertising.
That makes so much sense.
Oh.
And the source points out a very specific, almost insidious word that traps couples in this mindset.
Oh, I know the word.
It is the word just.
It's just. It's so dangerous.
You look at the styled shoot and you say to your partner, oh, let's just add a flower wall behind the sweetheart table. Or, let's just rent those vintage velvet lounge chairs instead of the standard seating.
We can just do a sparkler exit. It looks so magical.
Yes, that one single word casually minimizes massive logistical hurdles. Okay, let's unpack this with an analogy because I really push back on how casually people use just.
Let's do it.
Think about looking at a beautiful photograph of a house in a magazine, right? And telling the homeowner they should just add a second-story deck to their house.
Right, like it's a weekend DIY project.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You say it as if it requires a quick trip to the hardware store for some wood. But beneath that sentence is a massive hidden reality.
Oh, a huge reality. Adding a deck means hiring an architect. It means pulling city permits.
Yes, you have to pour concrete footings so the whole structure doesn't rip the facade off the side of the house.
You have to worry about property lines, specialized labor, safety codes.
Right, so the word just is actually masking a multi-month, incredibly expensive construction project.
And in the wedding world, every single time you say just, you trigger a hidden cascade of consequences.
Give me an example of that cascade.
Well, let's take the sparkler exit you mentioned. Just doing a sparkler exit isn't about buying a box of sparklers off the internet.
Right, that's the easy part.
Exactly. Suddenly, it becomes a dedicated line item on your budget. It requires a setup crew to distribute them, and more importantly, a plan to safely collect glowing hot metal rods from people.
Oh my gosh, I never even thought about the cleanup of hot metal.
Most people don't. It also introduces a severe timeline constraint. You have to corral 100 people who have likely been drinking for 4 hours, organize them into 2 straight lines in the dark, and coordinate lighting the sparklers simultaneously before the first ones burn out.
That sounds like an absolute nightmare to coordinate.
It is. And furthermore, it is often a massive fire code violation that your venue coordinator will shut down on the spot.
But you don't see the fire marshal in the viral photo on the app.
Nope.
You don't see the panicked coordinator screaming at a relative to step back from a highly flammable veil.
You definitely don't see that. You only see the glowing, immaculate exit.
This requires us to really understand the proper function of visual tools then. Because mood boards aren't all bad, right?
No, not at all. Mood boards are fantastic for bridging the communication gap with professionals.
How so?
Well, if you tell a florist you want a, let's say, a romantic vibe, your definition of romantic might be deep red roses and dark candles.
Very dramatic.
Right. While their definition might be loose, unstructured wildflowers in pastel colors.
Oh, right. Completely different interpretation.
Exactly. So showing them a board of soft pastel arrangements communicates your intent perfectly. They understand the language of aesthetics.
So when does it become toxic?
The toxicity sets in when every new image you save adds a mandatory physical requirement to the event, rather than just contributing to the overall emotional tone.
Okay, that is such a key distinction. Now that we recognize these platforms are feeding us highly curated, out-of-context highlights, we really need to examine what actually happens to our brains when we interact with them.
The behavioral loop.
Yes. How does this environment create a paralyzing behavioral loop in our daily lives? The source outlines what it calls the Pinterest versus reality spiral.
And the mechanics of this spiral are incredibly revealing. It starts innocently enough, right?
Right.
You begin with a general, overarching vision. Let's say you want a relaxed, intimate garden party.
Sounds lovely.
So you search for that aesthetic, and you save an image of a beautiful wooden archway. It feels good. You made a choice.
And solid start?
But the algorithm's entire purpose is to keep you engaged, so it immediately feeds you more.
Oh, the algorithm always knows.
It always knows. A tablescape catches your eye. It has custom embroidered napkins and gold-rimmed glassware. You save that.
Naturally.
Then you see a totally different style of dress than the one you liked yesterday, but the lighting in the photo is just spectacular, so you save that too.
And before you realize what has actually happened, you are staring at a ceremony layout that requires renting a historic chateau in the south of France.
Exactly. When your actual real-world budget is tailored for the local botanical garden.
Right. And then you show your partner this sprawling, chaotic collection of images, and they might point out a few things they like. But you don't even remember which parts you originally liked because there is just so much conflicting visual data.
The sheer volume of choice is completely overwhelming.
So what's the natural instinct then?
The instinct is to go back to the app and save even more images to try and quote-unquote narrow things down.
Which is so funny to me because I really question this tactic.
It makes absolute zero logical sense.
Zero. If you are standing in front of a wildly cluttered, overflowing closet, unable to put an outfit together because you just have too much stuff,
Right.
you do not solve the problem by driving to the mall and buying 30 more shirts to see what matches.
Exactly. You aren't narrowing anything down. You are literally just burying yourself deeper under the pile.
Yes. So psychologically, what is driving this?
It's driven by the illusion of productivity.
Oh, I fall for that all the time.
We all do. Sitting on the couch for 2 hours, scrolling and saving images, it feels like progress. You feel this false sense of accomplishment because you dedicated time to working on the wedding.
But you aren't actually making decisions.
No, because every real, tangible decision you make in event planning closes a door. If you book the rustic barn venue, you are permanently closing the door on the modern industrial loft. If you choose the heavy silk ball gown, you close the door on the sleek, minimal slip dress.
And human beings naturally resist closing doors.
Deeply. It triggers a profound fear of missing out. It triggers loss aversion. We hate the feeling of permanently eliminating an option.
So instead of making a concrete choice and mourning the loss of the alternatives, we just keep collecting possibilities.
We hoard options. Saving 500 images isn't planning. It is digital hoarding.
Digital hoarding, wow.
It is simply a defense mechanism against the anxiety of commitment.
Okay, so how do we break this spiral? Because if our natural neurological inclination is to just keep collecting until we are completely paralyzed by choice, how do we forcefully stop the loop?
The source offers a very specific strategy for a pattern interrupt. And it starts with the harsh recognition that willpower alone will not defeat an algorithm designed by thousands of engineers to capture your attention.
Fair point. You can't just try harder.
No,
Yeah.
You need a hard physical boundary. The source suggests setting a timer for exactly 20 minutes.
Just 20.
Just 20. You give yourself 20 minutes to explore, to dream, to gather inspiration. And when that alarm sounds, you forcefully close the app.
Okay, I like that. It makes it concrete.
Furthermore, you must save everything to a single unified board.
Not a million subfolders.
Exactly. You cannot have a dozen splinter boards categorized by dress option A, dress option B, floral ideas, and cake ideas. You will never ever reconcile 12 fractured, conflicting aesthetic boards into one cohesive event.
Right. Treating the inspiration gathering as a finite task, rather than just this infinite ambient state of being, changes the entire dynamic.
Completely changes it.
But the real work, I think, happens with what you do with that one masterboard once you have it.
Yes. Once a week, you sit down with your partner to review it, and you have to fundamentally change the question you are asking each other.
Which is usually, what do we need to buy?
Right.
Right.
Right. The natural impulse is to look at a photo and ask, what items do we need to buy to replicate this? You have to stop asking that.
What should we ask instead?
Instead, you look at the board together and ask, what feeling did these images share?
Oh, that is so much better. You look past the vintage velvet chair to the emotion the chair actually evokes.
Exactly. Does the board feel intimate and warm? Does it feel wild and energetic? Does it feel formal and grand?
And once you identify that core feeling, what's next?
Then you ruthlessly curate. You delete anything on that board that does not actively serve that specific emotion.
So if you and your partner decide the feeling is relaxed and intimate,
Right.
and you come across a save image of like a 10-tier fondant cake with indoor pyrotechnics
Delete it. Immediately.
because it doesn't serve the feeling.
Exactly. You archive the rest, and then crucially, you put the phones away.
But this leads to an incredibly common scenario, and I want to get your take on this. What happens if you and your partner sit down, look at the board, and just completely disagree on the feeling?
Oh, that happens all the time.
Like one of you is envisioning a very formal black tie gala, and the other is dead set on a casual backyard barbecue.
Right, a total clash of visions. The source highlights a really profound relationship insight here. The board won't resolve a values conflict. Conversation will.
I love that.
When couples hit a wall where they fundamentally disagree on the vision, the instinct is often to just retreat back to the internet.
To find more pictures.
Yes, they try to find the perfect compromise picture to prove their point, and basically win the argument visually.
But you cannot crowdsource your relationship values from a search engine.
No, you really can't. If you disagree on the core feeling of the day, you must stop scrolling, put the screens in another room, and actually talk to each other.
Because at that juncture, you are no longer arguing about whether to hire a string quartet or a DJ.
Exactly. You are arguing about how you both want to experience a major life milestone.
You're negotiating how you want your community of friends and family to feel. You are debating how to allocate a massive sum of shared money.
Which is huge.
You have to clear away the visual clutter to actually hear what your partner's communicating about their needs and their comfort level.
Because really, you are navigating the first major collaborative project of your marriage.
That's such a good way to frame it.
The communication skills you use to resolve the backyard versus ballroom debate. Those are the exact same skills you will need later to resolve debates about finances, career changes, or family boundaries.
It's all connected. Okay, so interrupting the infinite scroll and focusing on feelings rather than individual items sets a really great foundation.
It does.
But eventually, the abstract vision has to meet reality. You do have to sign binding contracts.
You have to pay a deposit.
You have to spend actual money. You have to make hard, concrete choices, especially when budget constraints inevitably hit.
Which they always do.
Always. Or when both sets of parents start offering their very loud, very differing opinions on what is, quote-unquote, appropriate.
Oh, the family input is a whole other beast.
So how do we translate this focus on feelings into an anchor that actually keeps us steady through all that administrative chaos?
Well, this is where the source provides the golden rule for overwhelmed couples. If you retain nothing else from this entire analysis, retain this framework.
Okay, I'm listening.
Choose exactly 3 non-negotiables.
Just 3.
Just 3. You sit down together, you define your top 3 priorities for the entire event, you write them down on a physical piece of paper, and you put them somewhere you will see them every single day.
Here's where it gets really interesting to me, because I want to push back on the number 3. Why only 3? Isn't a wedding too complex for just 3 priorities? Like, what about a top 10 list?
A top 10 list is a trap. If everything is a priority, nothing is.
Okay, that makes sense.
Having 10 non-negotiables is simply another way of demanding absolute perfection across the board. The power of restricting it to the number 3 is that it forces genuine sacrifice. It forces you to distill your values down to their absolute essence.
So think about packing a survival bag for a severe, multi-day trek through the mountains, right?
Okay, yeah.
If you lay out 20 items on your living room floor, point to them and declare, these are all absolutely essential to my survival, and you stuff them all into your pack, what is the inevitable result?
Your backpack is going to weigh 80 pounds.
Exactly. You won't even make it a mile up the elevation before you collapse under the sheer physical weight of your own essentials.
You'd never make it.
A true survivalist knows you pack the core basics. A reliable way to purify water, a reliable way to stay warm, and a reliable way to navigate. 3 things.
Wow, that's a perfect analogy.
The weight is manageable, and restricting the pack to those core elements actually allows you to complete the journey.
Right. And if you try to carry 20 top priorities into the logistical marathon of event planning, the emotional weight will completely crush you before you ever walk down the aisle.
So let's look at how the source defines a true non-negotiable, because it requires looking past superficial details, doesn't it?
It does. A non-negotiable is not, I want a really high-end florist.
Right, that's a preference.
Exactly. A non-negotiable is foundational to the lived experience of the day.
The source gives some really illuminating examples. One couple defined their 3 as natural light, live music, and enough time to eat dinner sitting down.
That last one is brilliant.
It is, because it speaks directly to how they want to feel physically and mentally. They refuse to be rushed, starved, or paraded around while their food gets cold.
Right. Another couple chose small guest list, one amazing photographer, and 0 stress about perfection.
Oh, I love 0 stress as a mandated goal.
It changes everything. We can see this in action through the case studies provided by Chris. Remember that couple we discussed earlier? The ones who came to him with a vision board containing 47 must-have pins.
Oh, yeah. The ones who were completely paralyzed.
They were entirely paralyzed by the sheer volume of their own demands. They couldn't make a single vendor decision because every choice threatened one of those 47 requirements.
So what happened when they used the rule of 3?
When they were forced, really pressed to identify which 3 actually mattered if the rest completely vanished, their answers shifted dramatically. They didn't list a single physical item or aesthetic detail.
What do they say?
They said, each other, our people, and the lake where we got engaged.
Wow. They went from 47 material items to 3 deeply personal core values.
Yes. And the result of that distillation was immediate. They ruthlessly cut that sprawling, chaotic board down to just 12 images that directly supported those 3 pillars.
That must have felt like such a relief.
Huge relief. The source notes that their severe planning anxiety completely vanished before they even paid their first vendor deposit. The clarity just eliminated the overwhelm.
Let's examine the other case study. The couple whose 3 non-negotiables were an outdoor ceremony, personal vows, and a great party.
Yes, this is a great one.
Because this is where we see how the rule of 3 functions as an impenetrable shield against outside noise, and specifically vendor upsells.
Oh, the upsells.
The wedding industry, like any industry, is built heavily on the upsell.
It absolutely is. And when you are making decisions without a hardened filter, every single upsell feels like an emotional crisis.
It really does. If I don't buy this, is my wedding ruined?
Exactly. In this case, the couple was at a rental showroom, and the representative suggested they upgrade from standard polyester table linens to premium textured velvet linens.
Which, of course, cost significantly more.
Of course. Now, for a couple suffering from decision fatigue and without a filter, this suggestion triggers a massive spiral.
Right. Will the standard linens look cheap? Will the photos look bad? Will our guests judge us? Does this mean we don't care enough about the aesthetic?
It turns into a week-long, agonizing debate over fabric.
Over fabric.
But for this couple, the decision process was clinical. They checked their list: outdoor ceremony, personal vows, great party.
Do premium velvet linens serve any of those 3 core values?
No, not at all. So they rejected the upgrade instantly, without a drop of angst or guilt.
That is so empowering.
It is. And conversely, when their reception band approached them toward the end of the night and said, "Hey, the crowd is incredible right now. Do you want to pay to extend us for an extra hour?"
They didn't even have to deliberate.
Not for a second. Great party was literally on their list. They said yes instantly.
Having a framework that turns agonizing week-long deliberations into confident choices that take seconds is just invaluable.
It really is. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the rule of 3 also serves as a vital relationship savior when navigating complex family dynamics.
Right, because the family input can be intense.
Very. When a parent or an assertive member of the wedding party comes to you with a great idea that you actually hate, you don't have to get defensive or start a subjective argument about taste.
You just run their suggestion through the filter.
Exactly. You can say, "Mom, I love how generous it is of you to suggest an extravagant ice sculpture for the cocktail hour, but our top 3 priorities are the live band, the open bar, and keeping the guest list intimate. The sculpture doesn't fit into our core budget for those 3 pillars, so we have to pass."
Oh, that is so good. It depersonalizes the conflict entirely.
It does. Arguments stop being about whether a specific centerpiece is tacky and start being about protecting the agreed-upon core values.
But here's the catch with relying on those 3 non-negotiables to deflect upsells and family input.
What's that?
You are still having to field the input in the first place. Deflecting 50 vendor emails a week, managing the budget spreadsheet, and gracefully declining your future mother-in-law's suggestions, that still requires an immense amount of mental energy.
Oh, massive amounts.
Which brings up a totally different, equally dangerous threat: severe burnout.
Yeah, the burnout is real. And this is where the source provides an absolute mandate. It is not a suggestion for highly stressed couples. It is a requirement for everyone.
I love that it's a mandate. What is it?
Brides and grooms desperately need permission to completely stop thinking about the event.
Stop entirely.
Yes. The internet forums are filled with people begging for an escape from their own wedding planning, so the source makes it official. You need wedding-free days.
Wedding-free day.
You must pick at least 1 day per week or 1 full weekend day where wedding talk is strictly, entirely off limits.
It sounds so simple in theory, right? But the reality of executing this is incredibly difficult. We have to do a reality check on the environment couples are operating in.
It's not easy.
Because you are planning a massive event on top of your actual life. You don't get to hit pause on your existence for a year to plan a party.
No, life keeps moving.
You are still working 40 hours a week. You are still trying to maintain your health. You are still trying to show up for your friends.
Right. Maybe you are navigating a career change or trying to buy a house or dealing with family illnesses.
Exactly. Your cognitive load is already operating at near maximum capacity, just surviving the demands of modern daily life.
It's a lot to carry.
So when you add a massive, high-stakes project management role on top of that baseline, and every single spare moment, every car ride, every dinner conversation, every Sunday morning over coffee is consumed by logistical planning.
You create a dangerous neurological association.
Yes. Your brain begins to associate the milestone of your marriage with total, absolute exhaustion before you even reach the altar.
Which is the exact opposite of what you want.
And people use sneaky loopholes to break this boundary all the time.
Oh, the loopholes are the worst.
Couples will proactively designate a Friday date night as strictly wedding-free. They agree on it.
Okay, good start.
But then halfway through dinner, one of them will say, okay, I know we aren't talking about the wedding tonight, but I just have one quick question about the seating chart for your cousins.
Ah, the dreaded quick question.
It completely unravels the psychological boundary you were trying to set.
It really does.
It is exactly like being on a beautiful, desperately needed vacation in Hawaii, right?
Sounds nice.
You were sitting on the beach, staring at the ocean, and you decide to check your work communication channels just for a second.
Just a quick glance.
You tell yourself you aren't going to actually work. You're just going to glance at it to make sure nothing is on fire. But you see a message from your boss about a delayed project.
And instantly, you're back at work mentally.
Even if you don't reply to the message, your brain is pulled entirely out of rest mode. Your heart rate elevates. You're mentally transported back to your cubicle.
The vacation boundary is ruin.
That one quick message destroys the boundary of the vacation. The quick question about the seating chart does the exact same thing to a wedding-free day.
That makes perfect sense, because when you are constantly in planning mode, your brain is locked in a state of hypervigilance.
You're just always on.
You are continuously assessing financial risks, anticipating logistical problems, and managing interpersonal conflicts. You have to intentionally force your brain to return to its baseline.
So what should couples do on these days?
The source notes that you should use this mandated free time to do what you did before you were engaged.
Oh, remember those days.
Right. Cook a meal together where you talk about a movie, not a catering menu. Go outside. Go see your friends, and make a strict, unbreakable rule that you will not debrief them on vendor quotes or dress fittings.
You have to remember that you are actively building a life together, not just preparing for a one-day performance.
And the practical payoff of defending this boundary is immense. The source explicitly states that couples who aggressively protect their wedding free time simply fight less.
Wow.
They have fewer petty, explosive arguments over minor details because they aren't irritable and running on fumes. Furthermore, they make vastly better decisions when they do return to the planning spreadsheet.
Because they're actually rested.
Exactly. Stepping away is the only way to reset your perspective. It allows your rested brain to look at a detail and accurately tell the difference between, I genuinely love this concept, and I have just been staring at the screen for so long that I have lost all sense of proportion.
Distance is what creates clarity.
It absolutely is.
Okay, so let's say you have done the work. You broke the Pinterest spiral.
Right.
You anchored yourself to your 3 non-negotiables. You protected your relationship from burnout with strict wedding-free days.
You're doing everything right.
You navigated the planning process beautifully, and finally, the big day has arrived. You wake up, it is your wedding day.
Here we go.
But here is the hard truth that every single couple has to face.
Right.
Reality guarantees that something will not match the vision board.
It's a guarantee.
It is a mathematical certainty that the physical world will intervene. So how do you handle the inevitable deviations when they happen in real time?
Well, this brings us to a profound concept in the text. The moment of divergence.
The moment of divergence. I like the sound of that.
There will be a moment, and usually more than one, when the actual physical day simply does not align with the perfectly curated image you have been holding in your head for a year.
Like what? What usually happens?
The floral arrangements arrive, and they are a slightly different shade of pink than you imagined.
Right.
The weather isn't offering that perfect golden hour glow. Maybe it's completely overcast, or maybe it is pouring rain.
Which you cannot control.
No control over that. Maybe the cake tastes incredible, but the frosting isn't as structurally smooth as the photo. Or, most commonly, your hair does what human hair naturally does when exposed to humidity, instead of staying in a lacquered, immovable sculpture.
Right, because you are a human, not a mannequin.
Exactly. And this is the exact point where the digital wedding and the real wedding diverge forever. They split into two completely different realities, and you have to choose which one you are going to inhabit.
And what does the source say about that choice?
The source argues that you have to let the digital version go entirely.
You just have to drop it.
You have to. Real weddings are lived, they are not photographed.
Well, there's a photographer.
Yes, there is a professional photographer there documenting the event, but the core essence of the day is the physical experience, not the documentation of it.
Right, that's such a crucial distinction.
The moments that your guests will actually remember, the moments that you will cherish decades from now, are rarely the ones that matched a mood board perfectly.
They really aren't. They remember the unscripted humanity of the event.
The messiness.
Yes. They remember the best man's toast that went slightly off the rails but made the entire room cry laughing.
Right.
They remember your little nephew completely losing his mind on the dance floor, entirely offbeat.
Those are the best moments.
They really are. They remember the quiet, unscripted look you shared with your partner across the crowded room when you realized you were finally actually married.
And the phrase the source uses to encapsulate this mindset is incredibly powerful. Good enough.
Good enough, which, let's be honest, can trigger people.
It can. But accepting that things are good enough doesn't mean you are giving up, throwing in the towel, or resigning yourself to a terrible event.
What does it mean?
It means you are actively, intentionally releasing a toxic fantasy. You are releasing the fantasy that aesthetic perfection equals love.
Wow.
You are rejecting the corrosive idea that the value of your relationship or the success of your marriage is somehow measured by how closely your table settings mirrored a styled shoot produced by a marketing team.
Okay, I love that, but I have to play devil's advocate here.
Do it.
If I am dropping $30,000 or $40,000 on a single day, the phrase good enough feels an awful lot like settling.
I hear that all the time.
Right, because if I am paying premium luxury prices for these services, shouldn't I expect perfection? Doesn't accepting good enough mean I failed to get my money's worth?
It is a completely valid fear, especially when the financial stakes are so unprecedented for most couples. But you have to remember that you are buying a live human experience, not a controlled laboratory experiment.
Okay, I need an analogy for this.
Okay, think about the difference between listening to a perfectly engineered studio album versus going to a live concert.
Oh, that's a great comparison.
Right. A studio album is mathematically flawless. Every single vocal track is perfectly pitched. Every drum beat is quantized to the exact millisecond. It is pristine, controlled, and safe.
It's perfect.
But when you go to a live show, the lead singer might miss a note. The guitarist might play a chord slightly out of time.
The tempo might rush a little bit because the band is feeding off the chaotic energy of the crowd.
Exactly. It is objectively, technically imperfect. But which one gives you goosebumps?
It's a live show, every time.
Which one makes you feel entirely alive? It is the live show because of its raw, lived-in imperfections. The energy, the shared experience in the room completely transcends the technical flaws.
A real wedding is a live show.
It is not an engineered studio track.
Wow, that completely shifts the perspective.
And the pursuit of studio track perfection at a live human event will only cause you misery.
You'll just be frustrated all day.
Let's look at the final case study from the source, which perfectly illustrates this. Chris shares a story about a bride whose dress endlessly agonized for weeks over the exact, specific shade of her table runner.
Oh, no.
She spent hours comparing microscopic fabric swatches to her mood board, terrified of making the wrong choice.
I can feel the anxiety from here.
Fast forward to 3 days after the wedding. Chris speaks with her, and she admits she couldn't even remember what color the table runner ended up being.
Wait, really? After all that?
After all that, the detail that consumed weeks of her life that caused her genuine anxiety completely evaporated from her memory the moment the event actually happened.
Right. Because it didn't actually matter to the feeling of the day.
Not at all.
So what did she remember?
What she remembered forever, the image that was permanently burned into her mind, was her grandfather's face when she walked into the room in her dress.
Oh, that gave me chills.
Right. A digital image board cannot capture the overwhelming emotion of your grandfather seeing you.
It just can't.
A styled shoot cannot replicate the heavy weight of your family's history gathered in a single room. Only showing up, being fully present, and engaging with the reality of the moment can give you that.
So the ultimate takeaway isn't about compromising on your dreams. It is about reclaiming ownership of your life.
Reclaiming the reality of it.
Your wedding is allowed to look exactly like your real life. It is allowed to reflect your real people, your real actual budget, and the real season of life you are in.
And when you finally walk down that aisle toward your partner, nobody sitting in those chairs is holding up a phone, cross-referencing your decor against a saved image.
They aren't grading you on how well you matched a pin.
No, they are not analyzing the hem of your dress or the symmetry of the floral arch.
They're just watching you.
Exactly. They're bearing witness to a profound transition in your life. Be present for that lived moment, not for the curated grid.
As we pull all these threads together, we really have journeyed through a significant shift in perspective today.
Massive shift.
We started by recognizing the inherent illusion of the infinite scroll, acknowledging that measuring a real event against AI-generated imagery or styled commercial shoots is basically just a recipe for despair.
It is.
We explored the mechanics of the digital hoarding spiral and learned how to break it by implementing a strict 20-minute timer.
And shifting our focus from collecting material items to identifying the core feeling we want to create.
Right. And then we anchored ourselves in the chaos by defining our 3 non-negotiables, the absolute pillars that protect our values and act as a shield against the endless noise, family expectations, and vendor upsells.
The survival bag.
Yes, the survival bag. We established the vital importance of aggressively defending our relationship from cognitive overload by scheduling strict wedding-free days.
No quick questions.
No quick questions allowed. And finally, we learned to embrace the profound beauty of good enough, understanding that the raw, unscripted imperfections of a lived event are exactly what make it memorable and deeply human.
Beautifully said. And I want to leave you with a broader philosophical question to consider as you move forward.
Oh, I'd love to hear this.
We spend an immense amount of time and energy thinking of wedding planning as just preparing for a massive, expensive party.
We view it as an administrative hurdle. We have to grit our teeth and clear before the actual marriage begins.
Right. But what if we completely reframe that? What if this intensely stressful, logistically complex, financially demanding process is actually the first real trial run of the marriage itself?
Oh, wow. You are building the foundation of how you operate as a team while you are picking out the centerpieces.
Exactly. If you can successfully learn to set firm boundaries against the outside expectations of your family and society right now.
Right.
If you can learn to communicate your core values with your partner when you fiercely disagree.
Yeah.
If you can learn to manage a shared budget responsibly without resentment. And if you can learn to let go of the illusion of perfection and accept the reality of the present moment.
You aren't just planning a beautiful day.
No. You are actively practicing, under intense pressure, the exact toolkit of skills you will need to sustain a beautiful, resilient life together for decades to come.
That is incredible, because you wouldn't walk into a grocery store starving and without a list, because it leads to bad choices and an empty wallet.
It always does.
So don't walk into the most emotionally significant milestone of your life without your list of 3. Your boundaries, and a firm grip on reality.
Keep your eyes on the feeling you want to create, not the cart you feel pressured to fill.
Protect your peace, protect your partner, and let the rest be a beautifully imperfect live show.
You've been listening to Planning Your I Do from You Had Me at I Do. Show notes, planning help, and ceremony support are at youhadmeatido.com/podcast. Subscribe so you don't miss the next episode, and send it to a bride friend who needs answers instead of more stress at 2 in the morning. Thanks for listening.